Greetings, Eric Brown, MOBO-Media, MOBO-Media. Hey, coming at you again with one of my post-workout walks. Just want to talk about something that's on a lot of people's minds now, and that's the 20th anniversary of Hurricane Katrina. Hurricane Katrina. So 20 years ago, around this time, there was a lot of tragedy, a lot of suffering, a lot of death, a lot of questions. I will tell you, as a military member, 20 years later, I still have questions. Not. I don't want to get into the racial component of what's going on because I think that's been debated enough. Any idiot with a pair of eyes can see what was going on with that. What I want to talk about is the military's response. The military's response. I want to talk about the military's response to Hurricane Katrina because at the time I sat and watched the hurricane form. Me and my wife, we actually sat on TV during that time and watched it form out. And it came and come up through the Gulf. We saw everything from calm to calamity. And let me tell you, it was just heartbreaking. It was heartbreaking. But the thing that really stood out to me and what really angered me was the military's response to Hurricane Katrina. Our response to Hurricane Katrina. I'm not going to say the military's response because you can't put that on the military. It's America's response to Hurricane Katrina because at the end of the day, these were Americans affected by this horrific this hurricane. So sitting there watching the stuff on TV, man, it just angered me so much because at the time that Hurricane Katrina occurred, I had been in the Air Force about 18 years. About 18 years. In fact, I had an assignment. I was getting ready to head over to Japan for 4 years, and I think I had a couple of weeks left here in the States before I headed over to Japan and for a 4-year tour over there. And so sitting watching Hurricane Katrina, and I'm looking at all these. Well, first of all, I saw, obviously the water. They talk about the levees breaking and all that stuff. But the thing that really, really angered me is the fact that I've been on a lot of humanitarian missions around the world. As I mentioned, up until the time I had been in the Air Force for 18 years. So I've been involved with a lot of humanitarian missions around the world in other countries. Just sitting here thinking about it, I was in Rwanda. Anybody remember the movie Hotel Rwanda? I was there in Kenya, Mombasa, Kenya, supporting those folks and, flying in supplies, flying in food, aid, with all the aircraft, you name it. And when I think of Katrina, I don't understand why there's such a difference. Why there's such a difference in our response. We sat there and watched all these people suffer, and we had the resources. You saw the resources. You saw the military gear and hardware and helicopters, but it was very limited in what they were doing. So I just didn't understand what was going on. And I think everybody was just screaming to the top of their lungs, like, what are you waiting on? What are we waiting on? Now, I will say this. A lot of humanitarian missions I was involved with in the military, obviously, they were overseas. I don't necessarily recall the military being used heavily in a humanitarian mission here at home, although it occurs. It occurs, certainly. I just don't recall the military having to respond to something of that magnitude, or America to respond to something of that magnitude on their own shores, using our available military resources. But what I saw, man, it was heartbreaking. It was heartbreaking. You see bodies floating in the water. You see people trapped on top of homes. You see, obviously, the Superdome ended up being like a super nightmare. It was just bad. It was just bad all around, man, all around. And a lot of the people that suffered during Hurricane Katrina are still impacted today. There were a lot of families broken apart. A lot of folks lost their homes. Um, I think there was even a time where people were separated from children. A lot of people were separated from children. And I hopefully, there's some resolution in that, and those folks were able to reconnect with family. But the military's response, or America's response, I keep saying the military. I can't put that on the military. I put that on America. I put that on the person at the top who can make the decision to get the military down there to get the help they need. But I didn't understand why is it in all these other countries we're so quick to provide aid. And I mean, I've been on the shipping end of it. I've seen Air Force flight line full of pallets of just supplies and planes coming back and forth, going to devastated areas. I was in the Philippines during they had an earthquake, 7.8 earthquake on the Richter scale. That's a pretty powerful earthquake. And it tore up a part of the Philippines called Baguio. And I'll never forget the amount of military support that was used to assist those folks in Baguio, with pallets and um, aircraft, you name it, man. We were, I mean, pilots. When I say pilots, I'm talking about um, containers of just foods and water and medical supplies and all those good things. It was just constantly going over there, and I didn't see that in Hurricane Katrina. I didn't see that, and I would sit there and watching Hurricane Katrina. I'm like, why in the hell don't they do airdrops? And I understand there's dangers with that. There's logistics and things that have to be coordinated for something like that. But at the end of the day, these folks were at their last. They were at the end. I mean, with seeing they had nothing. I mean, I think somebody could have airdropped some more food supplies or something in there. If anything, why didn't the leaders at the top say, you know what? Since this is a water disaster, let's tap the Navy to get in there and do their thing. You know, the Navy has great rescue resources. They got boats, they got things that can get in anything that has water in it. And just like they did with me in when I was involved in Mount Pinatubo volcanic eruption in the Philippines, the Navy, to me, seemed to take the lead on getting everybody out of there. Because when that thing happened, I think the president said everything, every military asset, commercial asset in that region head to the Philippines. Well, why couldn't they do that for Hurricane Katrina? I didn't understand that.